Welcome to this week's episode of the Live Younger Longer podcast. My name's Jason Harris, and I'm excited about today because I talk about this a lot, but I really want to dive into the power of words and how that can really affect your life in a way that to really don't really want to use the word manifest what you want, but make sure that your brain is working in a way so that you're consciously and subconsciously getting to a point of where you really want to go in your life. And there's a lot of things that go with it, but most people are so unconscious about the words that they're actively speaking over their lives each and every day, that they're habitually going down a path that they don't want to go down. And there's a real simple formula that I'm going to share with you here in just a minute about this, but it really gets to this point of how can we make sure that, again, there's a saying that you've probably heard a lot where you go into something and you're unconsciously incompetent. Like you don't even know what you don't know. Like you're unconsciously incompetent about something. And then all of a sudden you want to start going down a path and now all of a sudden you're consciously incompetent. Like you know what you don't know. Like so now we're kind of moving along the road to where we're consciously incompetent. And now we're getting to a point where now we're becoming consciously competent, because now we're again, we're growing, we're learning new skill sets, we're getting down this road to where now we're consciously competent, but ultimately we want to get to a point where we're now unconsciously competent, to where we're on autopilot and we're going. Now, sadly, a lot of in today's world, the way that people use and manipulate words to get a point across or to get a narrative across, it's very detrimental. And you really got to think about this. And one easy example is when we get into the topic of abortion. This is something really big because it's such an easy way to see how they use the power of words. So anytime we're talking about abortion or abortion rights, it's always framed as reproductive rights. We're protecting reproductive rights. Now, when you really think about what abortion is, it's the termination of a life. So we're not reproducing anything, we're terminating. So ultimately, if people wanted to be honest and factual, we'd be talking about termination rights. Like we need to protect termination rights, not reproductive rights, because ultimately, what are you reproducing if you abort a child? You're terminating the pregnancy, because ultimately, if you did nothing to stop the pregnancy, the child would continue to grow and you would reproduce a human. But it's always labeled as reproductive rights when it's actually termination rights. That's what it really is. So that's an easy example of how people can use and manipulate words to get a narrative across, to get a point across. They're always looking for ways to put the right wording to it to disguise what they're actually looking to do. Now, if we're not careful, we do this in our own life. And we honestly, a lot of times subconsciously get to a point where the biggest person that you probably break your word to the most is yourself. How many times have you told yourself you're going to do something, then you break your word to it? You should be very conscious, if you're going to give your word to yourself, that you keep your word to yourself. But most people, and I've been guilty of this a million times, we don't think twice about breaking our word to ourselves. And so we got to get to this point to where now we start, again, unconsciously incompetent about doing that. We don't even think about it. We say, I'm going to start working out tomorrow. Well, I'm pretty tired. I didn't get a good night's sleep. I'll do it tomorrow. And then I'll do it the next day, or I'll start the next day and the next day, and the next day. And we just keep on going. We never think about what does that do to us psychologically and mentally when we continue to break our words to ourselves instead of keeping our words. I'm going to start getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then 6 o'clock comes, the alarm goes off, right? Hit that snooze button. You broke your word to yourself. You said you were going to do something and you didn't do it. Now, we have to be careful about what we say and the commitments we make, especially to ourselves, because that will translate into others. If you're not willing to keep your word to yourself, why are you willing, or why would you be willing to keep your word to other people? And your word ultimately is the number one thing that you have in this world. My son told me one time, he works out in the refineries. And there's a lot of people that are no shows for jobs. They say they're going to be at a job, they no show. And it's interesting that he said, it's always hard to rebuild a bridge that was burnt. Like if you said you're going to do something and you don't do it, trying to rebuild that bridge to your employer, to your spouse, to whoever that might be, it's very hard to rebuild the bridge. So if you're known as someone that is not worthy of your word, like you're not good on your word, that's going to affect a lot of things. It's going to affect your employment. It's going to affect your marriage. It's going to affect your relationships with your kids, your relationship with your God. I mean, how many of us say that we're going to start praying more? We're going to start reading scripture more. Tomorrow I'm going to start. And then you don't do it. And we get to this point to where we're unconsciously and subconsciously we don't even care. It doesn't even bother us anymore if we don't keep our word. Oh, they'll understand. Or you negotiate with yourself. And sadly, too many people are in way too big of habits of negotiating with themselves instead of keeping themselves true to their words. And a lot of it is what's coming out of our mouth. The Bible talks about, right? Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. And that's where we have to be careful. Sometimes we get a thought, it kind of goes into our heart and comes out of our mouth. Now, if it's a negative thought or something that's detrimental, we need to stop it before we actually confess it. And I'm big about this. Like a lot of you guys know, I'm really big on my faith. And I remember as I got saved, there were some things that, as I was reading the scriptures that stood out to me, where it says, by our words we are redeemed, or by our words we are condemned. Upon the confession of our faith, we are brought unto salvation. If I believe in my heart that Jesus is my Lord and I confess with my mouth, I will be saved. And so I started thinking, okay, if that's such a major part of my salvation, of me coming to Christ, as me actually confessing that Jesus is my Lord, and I'm asking for forgiveness of my sins, of where I've failed, asking for that forgiveness and accepting the payment that he made for me upon my confession of that faith. If it's that important with that, why wouldn't it be just as important as I'm living on this earth? When it comes to my marriage, when it comes to my relationships with my kids, when it comes to my relationships with my friends and my coworkers, my business partners, through my business. If I'm known to somebody that says, I'll show up for an appointment and I don't, that's going to affect my business. Are people know, or are you known as somebody that's always late, that is kind of wishy-washy, or if they're going to actually show up or not? All these things are going to affect a lot of aspects of your life. And again, a part of this podcast is getting the most years out of getting the most life out of every year that you have on this earth. And how do we get the most fulfillment out of all these areas? And a lot of people have a bad outlook on life because of what they're saying all the time. Like, I think we're living in the greatest renaissance ever. I think there's more opportunity and more opportunity for wealth creation than ever before in history. You have at the same time, you have people saying that the American dream is dead, that there's no opportunity, that people don't know what they're going to do, that the future is bleak. I think the future is super bright. I think there are some guardrails we need to have, but I also think, again, there's going to be more opportunity to create wealth than ever before. So why are we all living in this exact same time period? And some people have a very optimistic look on where we're going, and some people have a very pessimistic look on where we're going. And most of it is the words that are coming out of our mouths, and you hear it constantly. You hear people so bent out of shape about who's in the presidential office right now that they literally say they wake up every day. And I heard a guy talking about this just the other day on an interview. He says, every day I wake up and I'm worried all day, every day about what Trump's going to do. Listen, there should be not one person outside of Christ that has that much influence over your life. Regardless of who's in power, who's in not, I'm not going to allow it to affect my day to day to a point where I'm constantly droning and constantly worried about what someone else may or may not do. That's literal insanity to me, because there's been some good presidents in my lifetime. There's been some horrible presidents in my lifetime. You know, what's interesting is during the 2008, 2009, 2010 recession during the Obama administration, I created a lot of money during that time. Now, again, you had a lot of people very pessimistic. This is the worst recession of our lifetime. Everything's crap. Gas prices were through the roof. And there was people that were scared. They had their head in the sand. They were buried. They were like, praying, thinking the world was going to end. I mean, during 2008 is when I left my secure corporate job to completely go out on my own with one of my businesses. And during that time, again, even though it was a recession period, I had more lawn and landscape business than ever. So even though people were complaining about money, they were still willing to pay someone else to cut their grass or to landscape their property. So is it that bad? I mean, most of the time, again, you talk about first world problems. There are lots of people in other parts of the world that are worried about where their next meal is going to come from. Let alone, do I have to cut my own grass? Or can I afford another pair of shoes or a bigger TV or whatever? Like, again, our poor are very well off compared to the rest of the world. But again, where our thoughts were and what are we confessing every single day? And so if you're one of these people, I just want to warn you, if you're one of these people that are constantly droning on say about the political situation we're all in right now. If you're constantly doing that, and you're noticing that your quality of life is this ball of stress and anger and hate and all this, you, you need to take a step back. And why? Okay, if here's a pragmatic question. If you have this much hate or disdain, and there's a lot of people in this country right now that have a lot of hate and disdain for Trump. If you're one of these people that are in that, and that person, like you really hate them, like you just loathe them. Why are you allowing someone you hate to have this much control over your daily life to where you're living a life of misery right now? I don't know about you, but that seems completely insane to me to think about that, to really think about, okay, if I really detest this person this much, why am I allowing them to have this much control over my life? Where my life just is you know garbage. It's ruined. I can't even get happy. I can't have relationships with my family members if they dare to have a different political outlook than I do. Why are you allowing somebody like that you dislike to have this much control over your life? I don't know about you, but my attitude's always been like, if you tell me I can't do it, I want to prove you wrong. Okay, stand back and watch this. I'm not going to allow your opinion to dictate what I'm going to do with my life or the standard of living I'm going to provide for my family or my happiness. Happiness is a choice. I used to talk to my sons about this all the time. Again, I have three boys. As they're growing up, they're all about 2 years apart. So at certain points, we had like a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 6-year-old. Like, so that there's different dynamics as these boys are getting older. And inevitably, boys are going to be boys. They're going to piss each other off. And, one would do something to the other. And 5 minutes later, the one that did something, the other one, he completely forgot about it. Now, the one that's all upset, he's continuing to be upset. He's just going to be just pissed off about it. And I used to talk to him like, why are you allowing someone else's actions to have this much control over your happiness? Because your happiness, your joy is a choice. Just as easily as you can choose to be pissed off and unhappy, you can also choose to be joyful and happy. It's literally a choice. So why are we allowing it? I got stuck in this rut for years with my mother-in-law when we're dealing with her substance abuse issues. Like, there was a lot of times, like, if I heard her voice or the mention of her, I would get upset. Like, I'd get mad because of the chaos that she caused in my life. And I got to the point where I realized is, why am I allowing her to have that much power over my happiness? Why am I allowing, or not her, why am I allowing her addiction to have this much control over my life and my happiness? And so I made a choice. I'm not going to allow it to do it again. And so I'm going to throw up this graphic, and it's a simple equation that I want you to think about. So as we go through this, so okay, your choice. Again, I'm talking about choices here. Choices are decisions that we are making, conscious decisions that we're making. So that choice, that decision, plus your behavior, the actions you're taking. So your choices plus your behavior plus habit. Now, what is habit? Habit is just repeated action. And a lot of us have very bad habits that are on autopilot. We're not even thinking about it anymore. So again, your choice plus your behavior plus your habits plus compounded. What is that? Just time are going to equal like your goals, are going to equal your results. So I want you to think about this because there was something I was reading the other day and it said, this is why it's imperative to figure out which behavior are blocking the path that leads to your goals and which behaviors will help you accomplish your goals or the results that you're looking for. So a lot of us, my gosh, a lot of us need to turn off the freaking news and just live life. There are so many times, like honestly, guys, I use social media for a couple very specific things, and a lot of it I use it just kind of again, I want to build this community of people that are thrive. I want to thrive through life. That have good attitudes, that are joyful, that have very optimistic attitudes about life, that really want to grow spiritually and financially and physically, mentally. Like I want to grow this tribe of people that are passionate about life and want to get again the most life out of every single year you're on this earth. That's why I use social media. Like I want to grow a community through it, and I use it for different business aspects. Now there's so many times my wife will say, hey, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you hear about this? Did you do this? And I'm like, no, I no idea. Because I'm consciously not getting in these bubbles that are going to cloud, number one, my judgment. And number two, knowing that social media will do nothing but continue to spit out what you want to see. If you want to see the most joyful, amazing, awesome puppy videos that make you laugh, you start watching it, it's going to feed you more of that. If you want to see the most horrible things ever on the internet, it's going to feed you more of that. It's going to feed you whatever you're looking for. That's what the algorithms do. Oh, this person likes puppy videos. You're going to see a ton of puppy videos. Oh, this person loves to see people get the crap beat out of them. I'm going to send them more of that. That's all it's designed for. And if we're not careful, we get ourselves in these buzz. Again, we make the choice, we make the decision to continue the actions to allow ourselves to get in this. And you wonder why there's division in this country right now. It's because people have allowed themselves to be manipulated in these ways, and it comes down to the choices and decisions that they first made to allow themselves to get in this position in the first place. Again, I've been to some really amazing places around this world. I've been to some really scary places in this world. And there is still a reason today, no matter what you hear in the media, why more people than ever are flocking trying to get here. Because yes, this is a free country. You have more opportunity ever to pursue your American dream, and that dream is not dead. It's as alive as it's ever been. But in the same breath, I will have people tell me the complete opposite. Again, my son worked his tail off. He learned a trade, worked his tail off. By 21, was able to buy a house. Now, was it his dream home? No, but it was a nice starter home. And I'll have the same kind of people say, you can't buy a house till you're 40 years old. What was my son lucky? Or was he willing to was he willing to make a choice, make a decision? And then the behaviors behind that, work really hard, do what other people probably weren't willing to do. He was willing to travel. He was willing to do stuff. He was willing to excel in his trade. He was willing to save his money, not just spend it. He was a very good saver and an investor. And then he got to this point where he's able to buy a house. Now, what makes him different? Decisions and choices that he made, and those repeated actions, those habits created an environment to where he was able to hit his goal that was one of his goals. He wanted to buy a house by 21, and he did it. There was no help from us. We didn't help at all. So why is he different? He's not. He looks at the world differently. He looks at opportunity differently. He looks at he looks at his choices differently. And again, there is no reason why. Now, why do most people say they can't afford or they can't buy a house until they get into their 30s or 40s? Because they want their first home to be a $500,000 house, their dream house. That's not logical. I mean, every job you start at, you don't start at the top. You typically work your way into it. And so to think you're going to get, your dream home right out the gate, it's crazy. But what can you do? Can you find a good, decent, solid house for maybe 150, $200,000, depending on where you live in this country? Get into it, start building some equity into it. And then real estate typically over time will appreciate in value. Then when you get a little more stable, you're making a little more money, you have some equity built up in your house where you can then sell that house and or keep it and rent it out to make extra cash flow, but then to get into more of better home. My wife and I stayed in our first home. We bought our first home. Honestly, it was 68,000 in the year 2000. We bought our first home in 2000. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Was it our dream home? No. Was it a great solid house? Absolutely. Were we able to then utilize the system to refinance and really have a pretty low house note for a long period of time? Absolutely. Now, as we started making more money, especially say go 10, 15 years out, could we afford a better house? Excuse me. Absolutely, we could afford a better house. But there was so much time that we stayed in this house because it was a good, solid house. It was a great house for our kids. And we just stayed there because it was cheap to live there. Our house note was low, and we're able to then use this extra money to build savings, to build investments, to build different things that we're looking to do. So then fast forward to 2018. So we spent about 18 years in our first starter home. Then we got into the house that we're in today. It's a little bigger, better, nicer. And we were able to kind of do some design things that we really wanted to do with this house. But we made the choice to continue to live in a house that, again, wasn't our dream home, but it fulfilled the needs. It was a great house. And so again, choices that we make, and we have to be conscious of the choices we make. And a lot of times the choices we're making through our day to day is through the words that we're saying day to day. When I'm coaching somebody, it's amazing how many times, like, we're about to perform a lift. Say we're about to do deadlifts and we start kind of building in weight and getting heavy. And there's so many times where I've literally seen people where they'll walk up to the bar and they're just shaking their head no before they even touch it. And I'm like, don't even attempt the lift. Don't even try. You're already saying no, like you can't do it. So don't even try to do it. If I'm going and I'm about to perform a lift, I have full confidence that I'm going to hit it. Now, is there thousands of times I failed lifts, but I'm never going to walk up to it thinking that I'm not or confessing that I'm not. There's a Navy SEAL that's out there and he has a pretty big following, but a guy named Chad Wright. And that's something he does, some of these like crazy ultra marathons, and like he does some really insane physical feats. And one time when he was actually training Jesse Isler, and they were going through some pretty crazy trainings for some of these races. And one of the things that he had said is at any time, if someone asks you how you're doing amazing. You feel amazing. You're not tired. We don't get tired. That's all they continue to confess all the time. We don't get tired. We don't get tired. We don't get tired. We feel amazing. Now, it was funny because on one of the on one of these crazy 24-hour plus races that they were doing, they walked into one of the med tents one time and they looked like death. And the medical person was like, "Oh my gosh, are y'all okay? Like, what are you doing?" And they're like, "We're amazing. We feel amazing. Like, we're not tired." And they're able to finish it. And it's amazing how many times, depending on what the words that we're saying to ourselves over and over in our head, they become the reality. There are so many times I'm doing some crazy long, just arduous workout. And in my head, I'm like, okay, that's one step closer. That's one step closer. That's one less set I have to do. And I continue to go until a lot of times my goal is my last round of a workout. I want it to be as fast or faster than the first round, because mentally I know I don't have to do this crap again. Like, I'm done. I get this over with. It's done. The suffering is, is over. But it's, what are we continuing to say to ourselves over and over? And I want you to open up so you can start being conscious of what are you confessing. Is every day you confess that your job sucks, your marriage sucks, your kids suck, everything sucks, the world sucks, the country sucks? Or are you every day talking about how I'm more in love with my wife than ever. My kids are amazing. My kids can accomplish anything. There's more opportunity. My job is awesome. If you're not content or happy with your job, get a new job. There are thousands of people hiring. There's opportunities everywhere. Do you look at your job as a blessing? Now here's a test. If you think your job sucks or it's a blessing, what if it went away tomorrow? How would you feel? What would your life look like? For most people, and I ask a lot of people this on coaching calls, I ask them their history, how long they've been at their job. And a lot of people, they've been at their job 5, 10, 15, 20 years. A lot of people aren't really excited about their job anymore. But I ask them all the time, I'm like, what if you have to go 1 month and don't get paid? What does your life look like? And it's amazing how many people in their 30s, 40s, 50s say it'd be bad. It'd be a disaster. I couldn't go 1 month without getting paid. If that's your situation, you better look at your job as a blessing. Change your attitude about it. And again, if you're not happy, I'm not saying just quit today with no backup plan, but what I am saying, start looking for other ways to create income. That's why I'm so passionate and love the network marketing industry, because for no capital, for no credit, for no anything, you have the ability to start creating new cash flow, to create new options and opportunities in your life. It's the most purest form of capitalism out there. In the skill sets that you learn through it, you're actually creating multiple assets while you're actually building an asset. And again, I just got to a point, I was tired of some employer dictating my standard of living. I wanted to create more, so I looked for opportunities. And I created opportunities because I was looking for them. I was consciously looking for them. I was consciously confessing about that all the time. I was thinking about, man, how can I create new cash flow? My salary is not cutting it. I want more out of life. I want to be able to do more. I want to be able to travel more. I want to do more missionary trips. I want to have the time and resources to go and give back and do some stuff that we're doing through our church. I found money. I created it. But where did that start? Again, if you go back to this formula I was just talking about, and I'll put it back up on the screen, but this formula, your choice plus your behavior plus your habits compounded over time creates your results, creates your goals. That's how you achieve it. And so now, like, if you look at me physically now at 50 years old, I'm in better shape now. Again, I've said this multiple times. I can show you pictures. I'll show you one right now of me in my 20s and me in my 50s. It's a night and day difference. Right now, is it a habit? Those behaviors, the choices to start going to the gym, start thinking about what I'm putting in my mouth, thinking about the food I'm putting in, thinking about my supplementation. So those are all habits now. Like, I don't really have to think about food because it's just kind of autopilot now. And so I know what I'm doing. My supplementation's on point. Then I get to a point where going to the gym, it's just habits. And those habits compounded over time created to where I'm in better shape again in my 50s than I was in my 20s. I got the result I was looking for. I got the goal I was looking for. The same thing happened in my businesses. The same things happened in my marriage. Like, my choices I make every day. And I was joking with my wife about this. Here's an easy example. I was watching something on TV the other night, and my wife started vacuuming. So I couldn't hear what I was watching. It was right in the middle of something, starts vacuuming. And honestly, one of my first thought was like kind of aggravation. Like, does she have to vacuum right now? And I had the immediate thought of, man, why don't I be grateful that I have a wife that's willing to vacuum? Like, I should be grateful that I have a wife that takes pride in her house and is vacuuming right now. Why should this be an aggravation to me when it's something I can be grateful for? It immediately shifted how I thought. Man, I'm so grateful I have a wife that's willing to vacuum the house. It's these little bitty things, guys, that I'm trying to get through to you that are, you just have to become conscious of. And if you can become conscious of it, you'll see literally your life starting to be created differently. And you can't allow outside forces to have so much control over your life to where it literally affects your happiness, your relationships, all the stuff around us. Listen, guys, we are human beings created by God that made us. We are all about connection. That's why it's something so powerful that when you're with somebody, and that's why there's something so insidious, honestly. It's something that's so almost evil about isolating people. Like, why is one of the biggest tricks of the devil if you're depressed is to want you to withdraw from everybody. It wants you to come back and withdraw from everybody, isolate yourself. If you're depressed, the number one you should do is get around other people. Get a part of a group, go give, go serve somewhere. You know, it's really hard to go serve somebody and stay depressed. You know, I think giving back is very selfish. I think volunteering, giving back, going on mission trips, all this stuff, I think it's very, very selfish. Because ultimately, what just personal experience, what I get out of that is so fulfilling. It's so gratifying. It's almost a high to be able to give back and to do stuff. And it's really hard. Like again, it's hard to be depressed. Or here's another thing: changing your environment, changing your situation. It is really hard to stay in a pissed off, bad mood or depressed mood if you throw on some worship music and you lose yourself in worship. I mean, it almost flips around like that. Again, changing your environment, changing it. And again, if you're one of these people that are just constantly complaining about how, you know, you're literally creating your environment by the words you're confessing. And if you're one of these people that every day is just pissed off at everybody and you're just online and you're ranting and raving about how horrible everything is, how horrible this country is, how horrible the job market is, how horrible the economy is, how horrible, you name it, all of our politicians, I mean, you can name a group, how horrible everybody is. You're creating an environment to where I guarantee you're not happy. You're not living a joyful, fulfilled, satisfied life. And you have the power to change it, but it starts with the decisions that you're making, which will affect your actions. It will affect your behaviors. It'll affect what you're confessing. You can literally talk yourself into being sick. There have been so many studies around that. You can literally talk yourself into being sick. If you talk all the time on how you don't feel good, you're sick, you know, my stomach hurts, this hurts, this hurts, this hurts, I guarantee that's the life you're going to be living. Your body is listening to you. It's a living, breathing organism. And just, I mean, the way we're created and how our bodies can repair and restore themselves is amazing. Are you feeding that? Or are you feeding the opposite? Like, what are you doing? And I just want to kind of come on this week and hopefully wake some people up. Wake some people up to understand that you have the power. Like, choices are powerful. You have the power to change your environment, to change your attitude, to change your job situation, to change your life. And it all boils down to the choices you're willing to make, the decisions you're willing to make on a day-to-day basis, sometimes on an hourly basis. Are you willing to make different choices, to make different decisions that will drive different behaviors, that will create different habits, compounded over time to create the life that you want? So that's the challenge. Take a moment. Really think about, are you allowing outside influences, outside voices to control you, to control your joy, your happiness, your fulfillment, your satisfaction? And there are thousands of people, probably millions in this country that's a reality for. Don't allow somebody else, I don't care who they are, don't allow other people to have that kind of power over your life. And that's the challenge for this week. So I hope this was of value. If it was, please like, subscribe to the page, share it to friends and family. If this was of value to you guys, please leave reviews, comments. I love to have interaction with the audience. But guys, with that, take care. God bless. See you next week.